this game, guys. Let's see what my opponent does next. Let's go knight c6, defending our pawn on e5. Let's take on d4. Go knight f6, put some pressure on e4 in this position. Capture towards the center, of course. e5 is a very ambitious move here. Taking some space, but this pawn becomes very overextended in some variations and can be undermined with f6 or d6, which is why I like these positions from a practical point of view as black. I had to go for a while. Welcome back, Amaruf, welcome back. h4 is actually completely playable. I hear queen e6 is what Victor Balagan recommends, and I think bishop c5 here is what he claims is good. Yeah, probably. Getting the bishop out on a pretty active square. Here queen e7 looks rather sensible. I've actually had many games which go exactly this way. And let's go f6 here, striking in the center. But here I don't think black is versed at all. It's rather strange that I've had exactly this game in so many other games. Alright, let's take on e2. I think this is how you play things. And then you take on f6 with the knight. And okay, now white no longer has this strong pawn in the center. But I'm not sure how great this is. It's definitely playable. Sarn? Wow, what is Sarn? That's the question. What is Sarn? Here, next I want to castle in this position, guys. Get my king into safety. Maybe go bishop a6 as well. Okay, it takes here. Let's go bishop a6, I suppose, or should I go for something else? Yeah, why don't I develop with a tempo with bishop a6 here? I have a little trick in mind. I have a little trick in this position, which my opponent fell for. This is why you should analyze your games, guys, because I had a game which went exactly like this. And here I took an f6, right? It was in a simul game, so I just played what looked logical. But then I analyzed the game and found out that I just had castles, and now I'm able to take on f6 with the rook and keep a healthy pawn structure as well as the bishop pair. Open up this page. Okay, let's open up that page, see where it leads us. See where this page leads us. We've got a song request, it seems. Well, anyways, it's my turn here as well. Let's take on f6 with the rook. Keeping a healthy pawn structure, because if I take on f6, then my pawns aren't isolated, but they are not defending each other anymore. Okay, let's see what to do next. I have to move rook b8. Not sure if it does much. I also have to move bishop here, c4, which is very interesting. Then my opponent might go rook here. We also have rook e8 actually. Rook e8 seems like a pretty smart move to me. Then my opponent will have to go knight c3. Wait, what if I try to be an absolute genius and play the move rook b8 here, with the idea that after b3 I go rook e1, and now I can meet knight c3 preventing rook e2 with bishop d4. Isn't that just genius, guys? The in-between with rook b8. Alright, we've got a song request. Let's press this button. Let's press this button. It didn't do anything. That's a bit strange. Yeah, here my idea was to go rook e8 actually. And now my opponent struggles preventing me from activating with rook e2. Kasparov versus Fischer. My favorite definitely has to be Gnome. Let's vote. If bishop takes d7, then I activate my rook on e2, and I think I have very good activity, and white even struggles developing this knight. So I think my idea of going rook b8, forcing b3, and then rook here is absolutely brilliant. Okay, how do I continue this brilliancy? Here my opponent allows me to go rook e3 actually, which is something I would love to play. And now my opponent is clearly on the back foot, as we say in Russia. Or I think you can say, maybe you can say that in English as well, on the back foot. Yeah, now my opponent is in some serious trouble actually, because he might even have to go king g back to g2, and then I play rook e2 with a tempi. Let's rook e2 here, then I take on c2, and then I should be completely winning. I also have rook f2 in this position if I want to play that. Yeah, rook f2 could actually just be a checkmate by force. Let's calculate rook f2 in case he checkmates by force, because rook f2 seems to be a checkmate by force. So rook f2, king e4, and my opponent goes for, I go d5. Okay, my opponent can only go to e5, then rook e2 back. Isn't that a checkmate? That's a checkmate, guys. Yeah, then rook here checkmates, because if he goes king g4, then I'll go bishop e2 check, king g5, and h6 checkmate. So wow, what a nice checkmate. Who is the best world chess champion except Gnome? Ooh, Mikhail Tal has got to be one of my favorites. He was so entertaining. Mikhail Tal was just so good. Such a good player. Let's go d5 here. And my opponent resigns, realizing I had mate in one. Alright guys, let's analyze this beautiful masterpiece. It comes to show that you're able to create a very dangerous initiative and attack on the king even without the queen sometimes. Even though usually it's easier to attack your opponent's queen when there are your opponent's king when there are queens on the board, it's possible to do without as well. Alright, I went for e5 here after my opponent had gone e4. My opponent went knight f3, threatening the pawn on e5. This is perhaps one of the most standardized positions in chess. Knight c6, defending the pawn on e5. And here my opponent chose to go for a Scotch with d4, which promises after knight takes d for knight f6, knight takes c6, b takes c6, taking towards the center e5. Create some very double-edged positions, which are very fun to play, as both white and black actually. This pawn on e5, it's both a bit annoying for black, but it could also be a target, because it's very far extended. Bishop d3, d5 leads to more dry positions. This is known for being pretty drawish, but it's possible to play these type of positions as well. I'd like to mention something for all of you guys, and never ever take with the d-pawn. Never ever do this, unless you want to suffer in a much worse endgame, because after queen takes d8, king takes d8, f3, restricting the movement of this f6 knight. This is a typical motive how these pawns restrict this knight. White is playing with the majority of 4 pawns versus 3 pawns on the king side. And this is very important in the endgame, as it's much more difficult for black to create a passed pawn on the queen side with this extra c6 pawn than it is for white on the king side with the majority of 4 against 3 pawns. Which is why just never take with the d pawn going into this awful endgame. Just take with the b pawn, be a normal person. Anyways, bishop d3. Oh, sorry, e5. Queen e7, very important move, pinning this pawn. Highlighting how it's a bit exposed. Forcing white to go queen e2 as well. If white tries to go f4, then d6 promises a rather big initiative for black. And this should be pretty good already. We can see how this pawn on e5 is getting undermined. Which is why queen e2 is the main move in this position, guys. Here knight d5 is the main line, and my opponent went for h4. This has become a very trendy move lately, introduced only a few years ago, and here Victor Balagans recommends queen e6, which prepares the development of the f8 bishop. My opponent went g3 here, and I went bishop c5, getting out my bishop. Here I'm pretty sure that white is clearly not better already, because it's definitely very easy to attack this pawn on e5, make it undermined. King d2, bishop f1. Yeah, what do you mean, the chess player Yotisco? Anyways, bishop h3 attacking the queen. And wow, is f5 a good move here? I didn't think of that. I just went for the rational looking queen e7. And now I'm ready to play either f6 or d6, undermining this e5 pawn depending on the situation. Oh, oops, sorry about it, guys. And my opponent went bishop g5, but now I'm playing f6 with a tempi, and I should already have some initiative in this position. This is why I really like this position, because after white plays e5, it's double-edged, and it's very easy to outplay your opponent. It's also very easy to get outplayed, actually, because sometimes if you don't undermine this pawn on e5, then it will make life hell for you, and you will have much less space. Queen takes e2. King takes e2, and here I decided to play it in between with bishop a6 prior to... Wait, sorry, I took an f6 first. And I think I did this subconsciously because I remember, I think the same opponent, we had a pro game which went bishop takes f6 before, when I developed to bishop a6. Then my opponent went king f3, which is a inaccuracy. In our previous game, I took on f6, not realizing the opportunity I had. Because here I can actually just castle, which is why it's good that I analyzed my previous game to realize that I can just castle in this position. After king g2, rook takes f6, I'm left with a huge initiative actually. Threatening the pawn on f2, the bishop pair, much better development. Everything seems to be going black's way. Here my opponent went f4 defending this pawn. And here, this is a phenomenon described by Mark Dvoretsky as a disappearing move. Here it's very intuitive to play rook e8 with the idea of rook e2, but then I realized if I go rook e8 right away, then my opponent gets the opportunity to play knight c3 here, defending against rook e2. And then it suddenly becomes a very double-edged position, because now it's not as easy to use black's initiative. Black has a tiny initiative left, but now it becomes much less favorable for black. So I realized, what if the pawn would have been on b3, and I could have gone bishop d4 in this position. So what did I do, guys? I played, I think, the very brilliant move rook b8, with the idea of forcing b3, as I was attacking the b2 pawn, and there was no other way to defend it. This, I think, was absolutely brilliant by me. Yeah, I'm not so modest, sometimes. b3, letting people know of my brilliant moves. Rook e8. Yeah, now my idea is to go rook e2, and knight c3 is gonna be met with bishop d4, using a pin on the knight, because if the knight moves, I take the exchange. My opponent went king f3, hoping to prevent rook e2. Unfortunately, after the move rook e3, I generate a huge initiative, and now I think it's game over for him already. Look at this knight on b1, which isn't able to be developed. Wow, the computer spots checkmate already. Yeah, here rook e2 with the idea of rook takes c2 is very intuitive. My opponent went back to f3 here, but here after rook f2 I'm actually mating by force. King g4 and king e4 both get checkmated. Here I will give a check, king g5 h6 checkmate. And if king e4, which my opponent chose in the game, then I actually just go d5, king d5, rook e2 checkmate. And that'll be it. Game, set, match. The opponent's king has no squares to go to. Alright, we've got a couple of